According to FSB, UK intelligence service, in collaboration with Ukraine intelligence service, tried to hijack a Russian MiG-31 fighter jet with Kinjal hypersonic missiles on board. So, according to this whole operation, according to the pilot, one of the pilots, he was approached by a certain guy who he believes is in connection with Ukraine and the UK, that they will give him $3 million if he hijacked this Kinjal hypersonic missiles and this MiG-31 fighter jet. So the whole aim was to defect. So the plan was the pilot will hijack the plane with the Kinjal hypersonic missiles on board and land in NATO air base in Romania. That was the whole plan. But the pilot was smart enough to reject this offer. He was very, very smart. Remember back in 2022, the same thing happened. A Russian pilot defected and sent one of Russian fighter jet. Not fighter jet. This was even a chopper, helicopter, to Ukraine. And after receiving the money and all the praises from the Western media, this guy was later assassinated in Spain. And clearly, this was the work of the Russians. They did it. They did it on purpose. And I believe this was a warning to their other pilots that, look, if you dare hijack our plane and give it to our enemies, this is the fate that awaits you. I still remember this incident. This pilot, I can't remember, this guy, the 2022 incident, even some pilots, his co-pilot, was shot and killed because the co-pilot was not aware that this guy was trying to defect. He had no idea. And he betrayed Russia. Then Russia didn't forgive him. One thing about Vladimir Putin is this guy values loyalty. If you are not loyal, remember in one of his interview, he said one thing that pains him a lot is somebody who betrays him. Betrayal. He said one thing he cannot forgive is betrayal. If you betray Vladimir Putin, forget about forgiveness. He's not going to forgive you. If you're enjoying the content, hit on the like button, and if you're new to the channel, subscribe. We were told that Russia is using old Soviet Union weapons. We're told that they don't have anything. So why do you need their weapon now? Why are you trying to hijack their weapon? Remember, the Russians use this Kinjal hypersonic missile a lot in this war. Radars cannot detect it. Air defense systems don't even see when it is even coming, neither to shoot it down. It is impossible to even detect this hypersonic missile. Even if you detect it, you can shoot it down. Remember, there is no missile in the arsenals of NATO that can be compared to the Kinjal hypersonic missile. The Kinjal is way above any missile in the arsenals of NATO. And I believe these guys wanted to capture this weapon and study it. They wanted to study the weapon and maybe create something similar to that. Wow. Wow. Quite interesting. And note, the Russians have 3 separate missiles. That works like the Kinjal. They have the Zircon, they have the Avangard. Also, in addition, quite interesting. A country we are told have nothing in their arsenals. A country whom we are told is using microwave parts to produce weapons. Today is outproducing the West completely. Is building weapons that NATO cannot compete with. Quite interesting. You know, the same thing happened back in the 1960s. These guys have been doing this for a very long time. This is an old tactics, right? So before Egypt 6 days war with Israel, before the Israelis won over the Arab states in 6 days, back in the 1960s, do you know that an Egyptian pilot defected to Israel? Right? Let me give you guys the full story. So, under Gamal Abdel Nasser decided to partner with the Soviet Union, and the Soviet Union gave Egypt over 200 MiG fighter jets. And by then, these MiG fighter jets were newly produced. In fact, they were very, very, very fast. Very fast. In fact, the West had no answer to these MiG fighter jets. So, one Egyptian pilot was bribed, and he defected to Israel. So the Israelis, together with America, decided to study the MiG fighter jet very well So America, together with the Israelis, they broke down the MiG fighter jet and studied it piece by piece. They knew everything about the MiG fighter jet by then. So when Israel launched a surprise attack, so when the Egyptians tried combating against the Israelis using fighter jet, it didn't work. You can see that the Egyptians failed completely. The Israelis dominated the 6 days war throughout. 100% air superiority. And that is why back in the 70s, when the Egyptians decided to launch counter-attack and take back Sinai, that is why they decided not to use fighter jets. That is why they decided not to compete with, the Israelis in air superiority. They decided to rather rely on air defense systems, right? So it has happened before. These guys, they've done it before. So I'm not surprised that they're doing the same thing again. Well, what do you think? Do you think Uncle Sam is aware of this thing? Do you think that Uncle Sam is in connection with this whole operation? Because clearly the Russian FSB mentioned explicitly that it is the British intelligence service. They didn't specify whether it is the MI5 or the MI6. The MI5 or MI6, whichever one. These guys, they do this, right? So clearly, the MI5 and the MI6 are responsible for this particular operation, but it is not clear whether Uncle Sam was part of this operation or not. What do you think? Do you think Uncle Sam was part of this operation? Let me know down in the comment section. Thank you very much for your endless support. Shalom. See you guys in the next episode.